Hello. In this lesson, I want to look at really some of the ideas behind what we've been doing in 2022 R1 and now in 2022 R2, which has just been released, and looking forward into 2023 R1. I want to look at some of the broad themes that we've been doing and how that relates to really Sage's strategy overall. And this goes down to some of the ideas associated with the brand promises of Sage, which are essentially all about simplification. Certainly the changes that I want to talk about now are about simplification. We've got a number of different Sage strategies, including sort of being human. That's the idea that we should be able to demonstrate empathy within the work that we're doing, being bold by being as ambitious as we can with the products that we're working with in order to satisfy our customers, and building trust, making sure that it works in the way that you want it to work. And everyone understands that they can rely on Sage's word when we're dealing with, in our case, in the context of Sage CRM. And Sage CRM, there is a fourth brand promise within here called Simplify. And that's actually what we are trying to do in this particular current cycle of development from 2022 R1, 2022 R2, and looking into 2023 R1. We want to strip away as much complexity for our customers as possible. We want to make sure that every change that we're making is removing layers of complexity, making sure that anything that feels too complicated is essentially addressed, is looked to and resolved. And that's where I want to set the scene for in the session now that we're looking at, is how we're trying to avoid any easy path, dropping out of any sense of proper thought processes, but actually going through, looking at what we need to do in order to simplify the product, in order to make sure you get the best possible use out of Sage CRM. So I'm going to divide this into two elements. One, I'm going to look at some of the simplification that we've been doing around deployment options, simplifying the implementation for you by looking at ways in which we've been driving down total system costs, and also how we've approached and why we've approached what we've done with the replacement for the Outlook Lite and Outlook Classic plugins. And I think that that's probably the most relevant thing for 2022 R2. Now, looking first of all at the idea of improving deployment options and driving down total system costs, you should know that Sage CRM has always had a web-based architecture. Sage believes that this gives customers the freedom and flexibility to choose what's best for their business. And over the last few releases, and that's really, I am concentrating here on 2020, the 2022 cycle, but actually we've been building up to this. It's part of the themes that we've had within Sage. But over the last few releases, we've been adding features that allow partners to improve the value of the managed services that they provide to our customers. And so in a typical customer implementation, we've actually seen a change from 10 initial users back in 2016 to 6 initial users in 2022. A lot of this is to do with the way in which we've had 2 years of 2020, 2021, and then into 2022, so 2.5 years, where the business model completely changed. We have seen the sizes of our customers not so much change, but the fact that much more phased projects are coming in. our customers start small with Sage CRM and then scale, and the COVID pandemic was very much part of that. But we've had to think about how we improve the return on investment for the whole of the implementation of Sage CRM. We have to have a way of being able to start small, but then being able to scale and make sure that the best value is obtained for our customers. Now, Sage CRM servers are the most complicated, most expensive, and most critical element of an organization's software infrastructure. And it can be confusing to think about how it all works, let alone how licensing takes place. Now, we've done quite a bit of writing about licensing, and I would encourage you to keep an eye on some of the writings that we're doing at the moment on Sage City. I've written in the past about Sage Server licensing. We are looking at writing a survey of how licensing is approached, because different companies around the Sage universe, so say, for example, Sage UK, Sage North America, have slightly different messaging around the use of SQL Server when within the context of integrated systems. So I'm not going to go too much into SQL Server licensing at the moment, because there's quite a lot to talk about, and I want to keep it to the 15 minutes here in our address right now. But we've supported installation on SQL Server Express since Sage CRM 2018. And this has been great for smaller instances of Sage CRM, but Sage doesn't recommend using SQL Server Express for environments that exceed 5 users. The software requirements guide also provides a list of other limitations. Actually, we've for 2022 R2, we've updated some of the hardware recommendations as well for using Sage CRM. So you can have a look at that and see how some of the hardware recommendations have changed, or rather, not so much changed, but clarified in that. Now, at the same time, we've been looking at database components that we've been improving the whole system value proposition to our customers in other ways. We've also spent some time really improving support for virtualized environments. We've always wanted to be able to help our customers realize the advantages that virtualization brings. Those sorts of advantages are the reduced upfront hardware and continuing operating costs, the advantage towards greater business continuity and disaster recovery options, simplified IT management very often, more flexibility in the enabling of those systems. And back in 2020 R1, we added support for the implementation of Sage CRM on Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud, that's Amazon EC2, or AWS EC2, and that provides really scalable computing capacity within the context of the Amazon Web Services Cloud. Now, that was in 2020 R1. We added support for Microsoft Azure in 2021 R1, and in the same version, we added support for Windows Data Center. Now, the standard edition of Windows is designed for small to medium-sized organizations that need no more than 2 instances of the server's software running in a virtual operating system. The Data Center edition is optimized for large-scale virtualization. Its license allows one server to run an unlimited number of Windows Server instances, and that means really this has been part of the being able to work within managed services much better. Now, Sage CRM 2022 R1 saw us return to driving down the cost of database ownership by adding support for MS Azure SQL. And we have been working with the UK and Ireland team to look at the support for Sage CRM within the Sage Partner Cloud. I don't think they're quite ready to announce the release of that and the support of that, but we've done everything that we need to make sure that Sage CRM is compatible with the Sage Partner Cloud. As Sage 200 partners in the UKI can become a managed server provider for their customers, and the program that would be powered by the Sage provisioning portal on the Microsoft Azure cloud platform automates, simplifies, and reduces the time needed to get customers live. The Sage Partner Cloud promises to provide key benefits for Sage CRM. It's all about optimizing for success, expanding the customer's ability to work remotely, all about controlling costs on both short and long-term basis. It's about security, providing customers with the confidence that their data is protected via Microsoft Azure-backed security. There should be some time savings involved in this as well. Sage Partner Cloud leveraging, especially for the setups of Sage 200, the Sage provisioning portal, automates the deployment to the cloud, creating less disruption and saving time. And there should be cost effectiveness as well. Customers can continue to use Sage 200, reducing training and project costs as well as avoiding business disruption. Now, with that, Sage CRM 2022 R2 has also added support for SQL Server Web Edition. Now, SQL Server Web Edition is the total low cost of ownership option for web hosts and web VAPs to provide scalability, affordability, and manageability capabilities for small to large scale web properties. Now, please note that you can't go out and just get the SQL Server Web Edition. The SQL Server Web Edition is available only underneath the Microsoft Services Provider license agreement. So you have to be an SPLA to be able to access that. And so it's going to be a provider working with your partner to be able to host the implementation of Sage CRM on SQL Server Web Edition. Let's have a look at what we've done with the technology to allow for the deprecation, the removal of the classic Outlook and the light Outlook plugins. And what we've done is we've moved over to ensure that we can make a connection with inside the browser to a user's own mailbox directly from within inside CRM, so we aren't dependent on that browser-based technology. The system administrator is going to need to authenticate with client ID and secret value to be able to define that within inside CRM. Now, we're using OAuth 2, and this means that we are initially going to be connecting to Exchange Online. Now, if we're connecting to Exchange Online, do we have a story for elsewhere? Well, we do, because what we want to be able to do is to be able to extend this in 2023 R1 so that we can extend and access a Google workspace and actually hopefully be able to do as well the authenticate where customers are using an on-premise version of Sage CRM within a hybrid modern authentication environment. The point is that there's no more plugins, no more additional installs. It's simpler for us to be able to support, and once the system administrator has set up a connection, all a user will need to do is to then connect to their Exchange Online account as they would as if they were using any other app, or even just signing on through their webmail, and they can then import the contact, import email messages, and we can have all of the functionally equivalent behavior as the classic, as the Outlook Lite plugin. This emphasis on simplification is going to continue as we progress beyond 2022 R2 into 2023 R1. Watch out for that. We should be sharing lots of information about simplification, all on Sage City and within the communities.